This is VM Degree, and when making a documentary, you have to focus extra hard on editing in order to tell a cohesive story. I'm your host, Corey Johnson, and telling a cohesive story is arguably one of the few common goals between all types of fictional and non-fictional media. So why are we emphasizing documentaries here? Well, that's because a lot of documentaries, especially amateur documentaries, tend to wander all over the place and tell a ton of different stories. A cohesive story is a story where every single element comes together to forward the goals of that story. Like how if you watch The Sixth Sense more than once, you begin to notice that every single thing alludes to the fact that Bruce Willis is dead. He's dead. And yet somehow on your first time watching it, you totally missed it. And spoiler alert, there should have been so go back and tell yourself, spoiler alert for Sixth Sense. This is important for all types of stories, especially those that are very short, like short films or commercials, which only have time to convey a single idea, and so they need to do it in the most quick and potent form possible. But documentaries are different from other stories because when you reach the editing room, you're basically making a film out of found footage. What you've shot already is all you've got to work with. Hopefully you didn't script the responses of any of your interviewees, and your B-roll is capturing real-life happenings instead of reenactments or staged events. And it's actually really difficult to get real life to give you footage that cleanly ties together and tells a single story. So how do you get that to happen? And how do you craft a cohesive documentary? Life, which you've tried to capture on film, is chaotic, random, and doesn't play by narrative rules. And so you can be sure, if you're trying to capture authentic footage on camera, it's going to be as random as real life is. So you could do what a lot of amateur documentary filmmakers do and just cut out all the boring bits, but then you're just left with a supercut of randomness. Or you can recognize that after a documentary's already been shot is when the real detailed writing can begin. Once you begin cutting your footage together, you need to make sure that it represents a single cohesive story or message. So let's just take a step back here. You can, in fact, write documentary statements to say what you want them to say. You just might not yet realize the power of your nonlinear editor. So, as you might have guessed, this kind of brings us to a discussion about ethics. When you cut together a documentary, you have to make sure that what people say in the final product matches the intent of what they said in your interview. Cutting up other people's statements is a great way to get them to tie together. Just make sure you're not putting words in people's mouths. Or you could end up in jail. Okay, got it? Back to making documentaries. The story of a documentary should be decided in pre-production. That's where you're going to choose what theme you want to explore. This will affect how you choose who to interview, what kind of questions to ask them, and what kind of footage or evidence you're looking for. But then, when you're in post-production, it's time to write the documentary again. After going through your footage and with a fresh idea of what you have, it's time again to choose what topics you are actually going to cover and how those topics will flow together. Just like in narrative filmmaking, you need to identify your story arc, transitions, setups, and payoffs. A single topic becomes a scene, a portion of your larger story, and how you transition between topics determines the story and structure of your documentary. I like to write down on paper each scene that I intend to use in my documentary or each topic that I intend to cover. Then you can craft your footage in each scene to tie back into the topic that it covers, and make each scene tie together in a meaningful way. The way I do this is I write an outline for the entire film using the scenes that I've already listed. I set each scene and the order that it will be and the relationship it will have to the scenes before and after it. Then I go about deciding how I'm going to transition from scene to scene, or from topic to topic, and how I intend to create an arc through all of the scenes that tells a single story. Finally, I can take it into my editor. I edit each of my scenes separately, making sure that every piece of footage I include in that scene ties back into that single topic. And then I can focus on how to tie two scenes together and make sure there's a good flow or transition between them. This helps me make sure that my documentaries follow a logical flow and feel like a single cohesive piece instead of a collection of random shots and sound bites. That stuff's not all done in pre-production. For me, most of it happens during the edit. Have you ever shot your own documentary? Did you use a process like this, or did you think there was something else that was more important for you to focus on? Let us know in the comments below. Also, please subscribe to our channel, where every week we'll have new video making and storytelling tips. You can find me on Twitter, here, or join the conversation on Facebook. See you next week.